The night is dark, the moon is high, and prey roams. That means vampires are lurking in the shadows, ready to strike. Now, most people think about Castlevania when they talk about games that feature vampires front and center. While this series certainly deserves all the praise in the world for giving life to a whole new genre, there are many other games with vampires at the helm that deserve their time in the spotlight as well. Fans who love the mystery associated with these creatures of the night will love playing games that make these supernatural beings such a focal point of their respective settings. What's going on, everyone? Geoffrey here with Game Rant. In today's video, I'll be showcasing the 10 best vampire games that aren't Castlevania. Number 10, Van Helsing. Van Helsing is a character who's been featured in many video games, including a lesser-known action title on the PS2 that deserves its plaudits. Devil May Cry clones were all the rage around this time, and Van Helsing is no exception here. Players steadily acquire a wealth of new weapons, using them in tandem with their firearms to wreak havoc against their enemies. It's not the deepest game around, but is perfect for players who want to enjoy an old-school brawler where they step into the shoes of the legendary Vampire Slayer. Number 9, V Rising. Many vampire games are narrow affairs. As a member of the undead, one is beset by enemies on all sides, and the player's top priority is making sure their undeath isn't abruptly ended. Now, there's nothing wrong with such plots, but they don't leave much room for exploring other aspects of vampiric life, such as what a vampire is supposed to do with all the time their immortality gives them. V Rising is an ambitious open-world title that does its best to answer that question, at least in part. In it, the player is free to travel the countryside, develop their castle, and make friends, and enemies of course, among the living and the dead, all while avoiding the killing glare of the sun. With crafting, base building, combat, and numerous other activities to get sunk into, V Rising makes a compelling case for being one of the most complete undead experiences out there, ensuring it won't be forgotten anytime soon. Number 8, Buffy the Vampire Slayer Chaos Bleeds. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is one of the best vampire-related TV shows of all time, and the franchise even spawned a few decent games. 2002's Buffy the Vampire Slayer on the original Xbox is a fun action-adventure title, but 2003's Chaos Bleeds is slightly superior. Taking place during the 5th season of the show and involving the first, which is the personification of pure evil in Buffy's universe, Chaos Bleeds ties into the series impressively well, serving something more satisfying than just fan service. Along with Buffy, Chaos Bleeds comes with a couple of other playable characters, including Spike. So not only does this game offer players the chance to kill vampires as the Slayer, but they can also step into the shadows of a vamp. Number 7, Hunter the Reckoning. Based on a tabletop RPG, Hunter the Reckoning is a hack-and-slash action game that only launched on the GameCube and original Xbox. This exclusivity led to Hunter becoming an overlooked gem of that era despite good reviews. Vampires and a legion of monsters have taken over, and it's up to the player to fight back. This game is certainly no Devil May Cry, but a fun enough equivalent for those wanting a vampire hunting game. Number 6, Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. The Legacy of Kain series is often labeled as one of the pinnacle vampire gaming franchises. It combines unique lore with epic storytelling. One of the most beloved entries in the franchise is the second game, Soul Reaver. The main protagonist is a ghostly vampire, which allows him to swap between the real world and the astral plane. Combined with addictive hack-and-slash gameplay, Soul Reaver has become a classic that spawned several sequels. Speaking of which, number 5, Blood Omen 2. Soul Reaver was a great new addition to the series, but the third game returned to the franchise's roots. Kain is the protagonist yet again, and the presentation was better than ever. Kain's vampire abilities are some of the best in the series, the story is great, and the gameplay continues to be enticing. Fans of the Legacy of Kain series often debate on which is better, Soul Reaver or Blood Omen 2. Even to this day, the game remains an iconic as far as gems go of that era, which is definitely a testament to Crystal Dynamics' work. Number 4, Darkwatch Curse of the West. While games like Legacy of Kain and Vampire the Masquerade reigned supreme, there was another vampire title that passed under the radar. Darkwatch Curse of the West is a first-person shooter about a gunslinger-turned-vampire named Jericho Cross, who joins the Darkwatch organization to stop a demonic vampire lord named Lazarus. Darkwatch Curse of the West uses a morality system to determine what upgrades the player gets. The Wild West setting was different for the time, and the undead monsters are all exquisitely designed. There was a planned sequel, but it was unfortunately cancelled. Number 3, BloodRayne 2. Imagine if Devil May Cry merged with Bayonetta and a hint of the Legacy of Kain games, and the result would likely be BloodRayne 2. A much superior game to its predecessor, the sequel focuses on a Vampyr named Rain as she continues the hunt for her evil father Kain. Now in contemporary times, Rain hacks and slashes to stop Kagan's followers from taking over the world. The gameplay is at its finest here as it's way more refined than the first game. It takes more than just spamming a button to win, much like the legacy of Kain games. Number 2, Vampyr. After a long dry spell with barely a pip from any blockbuster, Vampyr marked the big return of vampires to gaming. It focuses on Jonathan Reed, a vampire who is a surgeon in post-World War I London with the influenza outbreak. Vampyr can best be described as a vampiric version of Mass Effect. Tons of dialogue options, story decisions, and RPG mechanics to keep the player hooked for hours. The 1918 London setting also makes for a visually stunning gothic look for the game. For anyone in need of a modern vampire game, Vampyr is the best option. Number 1, Vampyr the Masquerade Bloodlines. Vampyr is an amazing contender for the best vampire game. However, as great as an RPG as that game is, it still does not manage to beat Vampyr the Masquerade Bloodlines. Now there's a reason why Bloodlines 2 is so anticipated. The first game is one of the most unique and massive RPGs of its time. With Vampyr, Jonathan Reed and his awesome abilities are all the player gets. However, in Bloodlines, there are many classes of vampires to become and evolve in the open-ended world. It can essentially be considered the Skyrim of vampire games. That's how free the player is with Bloodlines. Fans can only hope the long-awaited sequel lives up to the legacy that this RPG left in its wake. And there we have it, everyone. 10 of the best vampire games to sink your teeth into. Thanks for checking out this video from Game Rant. Have a truly wonderful and happy day. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.